Conscious hierarchy. The conscious hierarchy is just a way of looking at how we express ourselves in our current reality. At the top, we have the soul. Below that, we have thoughts, then feelings, then emotions, then actions and reactions. This is just a way for us to take a look at perhaps how we might better analyze or better take inventory of how we express ourselves as a physical person. Thoughts are intentional ideas about reality and the interactions in our reality or our observed reality. Thoughts interact between our soul and our mind. Now, our mind and our brain are two different things. The mind you can think of as like the space, whereas the brain is the actual structure. We can generate thought and even have random or unconscious thoughts. Because we exist on more than one plane, we can at times face a dissonance within our thoughts. Life has been endowed with imagination, creativity, and the ability to create thought. According to the maturity and development of the soul and its environment, the soul can influence reality. And this begins with thought. We are responsible for our thoughts, and this means that we have the discernible ability to reject negative thoughts and encourage positive and productive thoughts. Thoughts can give birth to our feelings. Thoughts are reflected by our feelings. We can generate anger, joy, sadness, fear, and love. The base feelings are love and fear. Anger, frustration, sadness, and all the negative feelings stem from the base of fear. The positive feeling base is love. For example, joy, excitement, and elation are expressions of love. We express these feelings through the emotions. Feelings can be an indication of balance or imbalance of our thoughts. We are not our thoughts, but they are things. The statement might be a foreign concept to some, as we've often been taught that our brains are like computers that processes information. The mind and the brain are separate, and they have different purposes in our lives. Thoughts are powerful, and they can create reactions in our lives, seed action, and even change a choice. However, we are not our thoughts. Thoughts can be random, analyzed, and created. Experiences can come from our thoughts. As we learn and grow, we can learn to channel our thoughts into appropriate uses. Our soul is superior to our thoughts. The soul is the spark of us that exists beyond our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. The soul is the animated part of us that lives beyond this dimension or density. Everything below our soul in this hierarchy is manifested as our current awareness. This means that the thoughts are manifested, but our soul is much more than just thought. What do we do when we have faulty thoughts? First thing that we have to do is to make sure that we can identify what our thoughts are. Sometimes we're not completely aware of what we might be thinking. We just kind of react to things. And in our society, it's become very easy to become reactive rather than proactive. Faulty thoughts. Imagine your entire life you believe that the earth is flat. Because you believe this, your behavior is adjusted to match this belief. When you're offered a boat ride in the year 342 to the end of the earth, you refuse to go. Your thoughts that was given birth to this belief would be, the earth must be flat because the scientists say that it is, and others accept that it is. I will be cautious so I don't fall off the earth. Once these thoughts are identified, we must make judgments on them. Sometimes experience can change our thoughts. Once you take an airplane ride in the year 2011 to the other side of the earth, you realize the earth is not flat. These thoughts can be at the subconscious level, and sometimes we need to dig in order to find them. Once we identify them, then we can make judgments on their accuracy. Oftentimes, thoughts give birth to our beliefs, and we become so embedded in the emotional aspects of our feelings that we can even become defensive in order to preserve them. Our feelings are then manifested through emotions. Emotions are expressions that manifest themselves into the physical reality. They can be seen as crying and physical expressions of anger like shouting or violence. They can also be as sullen expressions of sadness. Feelings are the states behind these emotions. A person might be crying, but feeling any of several feelings like anger or sadness. It's important to understand the difference between feeling and emotion in the hierarchy of our manifested selves. Our emotions give way to our actions and reactions. Our emotional responses feed into our actions and reactions. Actions are a directed use of energy, while reactions are an internal response to our conscious hierarchy. We can cry when we are angry. We can laugh when we are happy. We can become violent when we are filled with rage. Taking control of our thoughts is essential. It's important to take inventory of our thoughts on a regular basis and be sure that our conscious hierarchy is in balance. Often, our feelings and emotions will give us a clue as to how our thoughts are being generated. This means that we need to practice meditation or mindfulness to ensure that we are in balance. Prayer is our sharing of thoughts and desires, while meditation and mindfulness is about reflecting and listening. Taking inventory of our thoughts requires critical thinking. Critical thinking is essential to our ability to discern information. Without it, we will tend to be manipulated, influenced, and controlled. Ask why. Who is behind it? What do they have to gain? Where is the trail of money going? And what do they benefit from? Just because society presents something as normal does not mean that it's morally right or beneficial. Someone's status in society, their degrees, ownership, training, success, credentials, position of power, professional status, or celebrity does not define their level of empathy, compassion, integrity, or altruism. This is only defined by the condition of the soul. Just because someone is an expert does not mean they will use their power for good or to the benefit of others. This is a very important reminder, as systems are often run by experts, but many of these systems can be deeply corrupt and should not be given trust to the level that they can control your life. If you are not your own authority, then you are vulnerable. We have been very conditioned by society to accept a narrative, whether that narrative be Christianity or Buddhism or as a Muslim. We've been trained and we've been taught that a narrative goes a certain way and that everybody else is wrong, when in actuality, there can be more than one right answer for something. If we take a look at all religions and we look for things that are common or things that make sense to everyone, all religions have been manipulated. And I know that this is something that's very hard for most people to accept. This isn't an attack against your personal beliefs, and you are certainly free to believe as you choose. However, it's just a chance to really critically think about why we have so much separation in our world and why we're not getting along, why we still have war, why we still have famine, why we still have financial crises. Why? Think about it. Why are we not all understanding each other? Why so many different narratives? Now, certainly, some will see it as a danger of coming together to only have one narrative, because then some see it as complete control. And this is understandable. But this is not what we're talking about. We're not talking about a government, and we're not talking about a set of rules, rather a standard of living. This is where the universal truths come into play. It means that we can all agree to get along and come up with standards that really honor everyone. Did you know that reincarnation was fully accepted and written about in the Bible until probably the 6th century when it was edited out? This is just one example of how over many, many years things have changed. Another interesting example is if you look at the Sumerian texts and some of the stories that are included there, and then go to the Bible and look at some of the interesting stories that are included there as well. You will find a parallel between them. In fact, you will find the same stories, only these stories are changed with some details. Think about this. The Sumerian texts were written thousands of years before the Bible, but yet they have some of the same stories, meaning that the Bible claims that things happened at a certain time frame, and the Sumerian text claims that things happened at a certain time frame. When you start your journey of really being open-minded and studying all of these different religions and all of the ancient texts, here's what you find if you really look at it from a third-person perspective. All of them have been controlled by a narrative. Someone was influencing them. Some of them have some great information and great inspiration in them, and I'm not belittling that by any means. However, it's very true that we can look at history and say that history was written by those who won. And I think with all of our ancient manuscripts, it's the same. They've been manipulated, they've been changed, they've been controlled. And what I'm saying is, it's time for us to live beyond a narrative and to really critically think about everything in our lives. We can look at all of these scripts and texts as a guide to perhaps improve many things in our lives. However, wars have been started over religion. Hate has still gone on today because of religion. How you choose to express yourself to God, the Creator Source, is completely up to you, and no one has a right to tell you what you can or can't do. However, think about this. Let's suppose that all of us appear in heaven, or the afterlife, just depending on what you call it, according to your religion. The first person is a Christian, and God says, "Well, I guess I can forgive you. You can go ahead to my right." The next one comes up, and it's a Buddhist, and God says, "Well, you were a really nice person, and you were really conscious of the environment, and you cared how animals felt, but you just weren't the right religion. You just didn't accept the right things, so you're going to have to go to my left." The next person comes up, and they're a Muslim. And God looks at them and says, "Well, you certainly like to do things to be honorable, and I can respect that. However, you are not the right religion, and there are things about you that, just weren't meant to be. You can go to my left." The next person comes up who's a New Age religion, and God says, "Well, you certainly knew how to embrace the positive aspects of life. However, you were in denial about a lot of things. I guess, no, I don't think you make it. You're going to go ahead to my left." Now think about this scenario, because this is exactly the kind of thing that we've been taught in our society, that there's only one person who is right. Do you really think that as God the Creator, that He would create all of these beautiful souls in their soul form so that they can maybe get it right or maybe not get it right, and then, only a small percentage of them actually gets to really exist when we're done with our physical existence? It doesn't really make logical sense, does it? God has created all of these souls, and He desires all of these souls. Source desires all of these souls to grow and to learn, because as souls, we are part of Source. We are part of God. I think humanity is starting to think about these things, and I think as they reflect on them, that this is really the catalyst as to why so many people are becoming spiritual instead of religious. We've seen a lot of corruption in religion over the years, and especially lately. And that really shouldn't deter you from understanding that you are a soul and you were created to be beautiful. You were created to grow and to learn, and you will exist forever. We need to get to a place where we understand that regardless of someone's religion, their culture, their background, the color of their skin, that we really are souls. And the bodies that we have are bodies. They are not the soul. They're a physical expression of the soul. That's it. So understand that if you feel strange around someone with a different culture or religion or skin color or even the way they look, understand that this is really something that we all need to really deal with, and to deal with very seriously. Every soul that is here on this planet matters. Religions have been used to justify hate. There's a lot of hate going around on this planet, and there's even some false love going around on this planet. And what I mean by that is people justify their hate by using religion, by even using God and saying that God doesn't like this, and so you can't do this, or you should not be this. Understand that we are really here to focus on ourselves and to learn and to grow. Now, obviously, if someone is harming somebody else, then we have a right to say, don't do that. That's not nice. But if it's someone's personal journey, personal opinion, or perhaps even a lesson that they need to learn for themselves, really try to focus on yourself and what you can do to grow as a person and to become more than what you are. Be careful judging others. You haven't walked in their shoes. You don't know why something might be happening. And you weren't there to see the whole context of a situation. Perfect example of this is perhaps you saw a man hug a woman. And you know the man, he's married to someone else. Well, you could run off and you could tell your friends, hey, this man is cheating on his wife, or this woman is cheating with this man who is married. However, the woman may have actually just said, my cat or dog just died. I had him for 18 years. I'm devastated. And the man had previously lost a dog or a cat 2 or 3 years before that and completely related to her. And so they shared a moment where they showed empathy to each other. Many rumors and judgments start because we have unrealistic expectations of others and ourselves. It's so easy on social media to hate others, to post mean, nasty comments, and to say things that we think are safe. Because we're not face-to-face with the person. It's electronic, and well, it's very easy to just type it out and hit a button. However, we really need to think about this behavior. It's not only completely unnecessary, but also understand that we live in an age now where we have a digital trail, literally, of everything we post online, everything we say, everything we do. And that's being fed into artificial intelligence. And it becomes very clear what kind of person you are by your tone of voice that you're using, the words you're using. And what I'm saying to you is you should be very careful what you say and what you do. You may not agree with everything that I say. Understand that that's perfectly okay. Whatever resonates with you is what I hope you will take away to think about critically, to learn and to grow. Accept what resonates with you, and the things that don't resonate with you, think about them, put them away, and who knows, maybe in the future you might look at it differently. And if you don't, that's fine too. Back in the day when I did counseling, there was something very important that I learned as I went. You can learn so much from a book, but when you actually get out there and you start to get experience, you start to learn things that you can't really learn in a book. And what I learned is that everybody is on a path, and regardless of whether or not I agree with the experiences or choices or situations that they got themselves into, that there was an opportunity for them to grow and to learn, and there was a value in what they experienced. And it wasn't my job to judge them and tell them, no, you can't do this, or you can't do that, or you shouldn't be this or be that. Instead, I needed to listen. I needed to find the lesson that was there for them, the growth that was there for them, the integration of who they are, the ability to learn from that and to expand on themselves. That's what really is important. And we need to remember that. So as you go off into social media and society and life, don't be so judgmental, even if you disagree. And it's okay to disagree with someone. And you don't even have to tell them that you disagree. You can simply say, I understand, that's very interesting. And you don't have to give them your personal judgments or personal opinions about it, because their life is made for them and your life is made for you. Years ago, I became friends with a student that I had. She was an older student, much older than my other students, and actually she was almost old enough to be my mother. And she was actually already a nurse as well, but she was coming through another program because her desire was to go out and to volunteer and to go do, care for others in third world countries. And she happened to be Muslim. And she was one of the most beautiful souls. I just can't really put into words how beautiful she was. I can see it and I can feel it, but it would take me a long time to really describe how beautiful her soul was. So we had become friends, and after she graduated, we continued to stay in contact, and I wanted to know what was going on in her life, and she knew what was going on in mine. And I will tell you this, she was such a ray of sunshine, and she actually had some gifts that she kept to herself because they did not line up with what was acceptable in her particular religion, but it was genuinely who she was and how she saw life. And what I can tell you is this. She gave me many gifts. And I don't mean physical gifts. However, she did. She would buy me a teaching lanyard that I would wear. But I moved across the country, and oddly enough, a short time later, so did she. And she contacted me and she said, let's get together. And I said, okay, that sounds really good. And so we planned to get together because she literally had moved maybe a half an hour to 45 minutes from where I lived, which was really incredible. Before we hung up, she said to me, I have a gift for you. And of course, in my mind, I thought, well, whatever this gift was would come with such love and such thoughtfulness, because that's just the person that she was. That's the soul that she was. And so I was very curious as to what it could be, because I wasn't teaching there anymore. And so I thought, well, what did she get me? Well, she died. She passed away, unfortunately. And it was sudden and perhaps somewhat unexpected. And so I never got to find out what that gift was. However, what I came to realize is that she gave me a far greater gift than any physical gift that I could get. And she gave me that gift of more open-mindedness, more respect, more empathy, more love. You see, we couldn't have possibly lived two different lives any more than we had. But yet she was such a beautiful soul and so loving that we didn't care that we had different thoughts about God or religion, that we did different things for a living, that we were different ages from different generations. She was just a beautiful soul. I recognized her soul, and she recognized mine. My hope is that someday we all can look at each other that way, the way that she did, where she didn't care what you believed or what you thought or what your idea on politics were, or even who you were married to or what you did for a living. She looked at me and saw my soul, and I looked at her and I saw her soul. And that's how we should see each other. That's how we should love each other. And I gotta be honest with you. I think that too much politics has been put into this subject, and it's really cost us a great deal. And it shouldn't be about politics. It shouldn't be about somebody having a platform and having an agenda behind it. A lot of people have used this idea to express that there are just too many people on the planet, and so therefore it's all the people on the planet that are to blame for this. And we just need to get rid of the people and the animals and keep it down to a manageable level, and then the pollution and all the garbage that we create won't be so bad. This is really not the way to look at this situation. Here's why. The lack of creative responsibility means that we have created things that have consequences. Nuclear power, oil, fracking, coal, all of these things that contaminate the environment, that harm the wildlife, that contaminate our water supply, they're all damaging, they're all harmful, and they all lead to destruction. They're not green, they're not clean, and yes, they do employ a lot of people, and that part is very good. However, they need to be replaced with benign technology, and we have it. We have it. We have many sources of benign technology that won't hurt the environment and that can essentially make energy free for everyone on the planet. And this is something that we need to move towards. The Earth is volatile, and it goes through cycles. There are volcanoes, there are earthquakes, there are landslides, there's erosion. There's many things that we all learned about in geology class in grade school. So we must remember that our Earth is a living, breathing, changing environment, and we will have natural disasters at some level. However, when we create things that are toxic to the environment, like nuclear plants, for example, and what happened in Japan with Fukushima, when those things happen, the devastation is so much broader, so much bigger, and so much more damaging. It's really just not smart. So when we look at these things, we have to remember that we must use benign things as much as possible so that when we do face natural disasters or things that happen on the planet as it grows and changes, that they won't be as devastating. This is what is smart. We can protest in a group and say, please save the planet, or we can really take a look at the real issue. And the real issue is, what are we using daily? What are we doing to contribute to the damage in our environment? Do we use shampoos that have chemicals in it that are damaging to our water supply? Do we flush our prescriptions down the toilet so that our local water supply can be contaminated with them? Do we use recyclable products and services? Do we use reusable containers, things that won't harm the environment? Do we take the time to not waste things? Do we take the time to try to see how we can go off the grid and not have to use nuclear energy and oil and all of the things that are harmful and expensive and that have done nothing but breed greed? The real solution is in us coming together and to use services and products that are benign to the environment. We can say no and we can say yes by where we put our money, where we participate, and where we move to. Now, I know this isn't an easy task and it sounds so easy just to say it, but how do we implement it? Who has the money to put a massive solar panel on their roof? We may not have the money to quickly transition to this kind of a lifestyle. However, what we need to recognize is that this is the way to go. We need to care about the environment because we live in it. We need to care about the animals on this planet. They are part of the food chain. They are part of our environment. If we kill off all the bees, we're in serious trouble. If we kill off the birds with things like 5G, we're in serious trouble. When we destroy and we break down that ecosystem that we live in, there will be consequences. We've had a monopoly on health in not only our country, but across the world. There are still pockets of those who practice natural medicine, handed down for generations. But for the most part, in the industrialized nations, we have a monopoly on healthcare. And this is something else that we need to really seriously take a look at. All pharmaceutical drugs have side effects and have consequences to them. Some of them have saved people's lives, but there's a lot out there that has harmed a great deal, harmed many lives. So again, we have to say, is there one answer for everything? No, there isn't. We need a doctor to do an X-ray and an MRI to find out what is wrong, but then the individual has to make the choice as to what they do with their body, and it is their choice, and it should be their choice. As things are progressing on our planet, I have become gravely concerned about our future. We still have slavery in this modern day and age. We are developing technology way past our level of empathy, our level of love, even our level of understanding who we really are. We have animals that are becoming extinct. We have animals that are being abused on a daily basis without any thought of how our food got to our plate. We have so much hate that is growing, country against country, person against person. And what I can tell you is that we need to all stop and really think about these things. You know, the wars that we had, even in World War I or World War II, won't be what it would be like to have World War III. We have the technology to blow up this planet. We have the technology to wipe off every person, animal, and plant on this planet, and to become barren like our moon. We really need to stop and think about what we want our future to be. Our future can be desolate and barren, or our future can be us repairing all of the damage that's been done here, both to our society and our planet.